Resident Evil Village, the 8th installment in the iconic horror series, places us in a grand environment. This place literally feels like Skyrim. I feel like I could jump over these hills, walk into a bar, and hear a familiar "need something?" as I tried to explain that werewolves just killed the entire village yonder. But I digress. If you're new to Horoscoped, we sort of do things differently here. We take some of your favorite games, sometimes break them, put them to the test, or explore the weird quirks that you normally don't see. And Resident Evil 8 is no different. Today we're going to be exploring the vast world of the village area, but also showing off all the interesting ways that the developers pull off the cutscenes in the game. They can be quite funny when not viewed correctly. So if that sounds like your jam, subscribe right now, because we have a lot of videos coming. And without further ado, we're stepping out into the cold to show off the village area. Starting off, as mentioned before, the village area is absolutely enormous. It reminds me so much of Resident Evil 4, honestly. The developers went the extra mile, layering landscape upon landscape to create this breathtaking cursed village in the mountains. Taking the camera up above the landscape, you can see the detail and care put into everything. Even the castle, which is normally viewed only from far away, has a striking amount of detail to it. Something you'll never get to see up close, and yet it's beautiful. The texture work is incredible. One of my favorite things is the scarecrow in the village just because it looks so damn real, with how they layered on the snow. In the demo of the game, Capcom did strip out a lot of the surrounding areas, of course, to keep the file size down. Things that are restored in the full version of the game. Holes in the ground, areas cut out of the graveyard, etc. Demos are always interesting because they are truly vertical slices in more than one way, which is a term that is tossed around a lot in the game dev world. I love it in this scenario because it looks like they took the lasso tool in Photoshop and cropped out the rest of the world. But even in the off-axis areas, it's still breathtaking. Bravo, Capcom, but that's enough landscape videography. Let's talk about the flow of events that take place in the village. When the old lady leaves us, she actually just straight up walks through a wall and then transforms into her staff. So yeah, that's a thing. This is off camera, of course, but it does happen. So we leave the old lady's staff and press on towards Elena, who is in a shack with her father. Along the way, we run to a well that leads into the void. So be sure not to fall down it. Also, this werewolf is totally just eating dirt. He's a vegan, so don't let his composure fool you. On my second time running through this demo area, the shotgun shack just straight up didn't load. So it was just a bunch of gear floating. I'm not sure why it never loaded at all during the entire playthrough. Once we approach the gate up top, we then head into the shack where Elena is hiding. Now normally, upon entering, a cutscene plays. But if we look into the shack before that happens, we can see Elena just sitting there bent over all weird, and there are no signs of her father. It's super dark too. Once we step in, the father spawns and the cutscene carries out like normal. When we get to the house to attend the Last Supper, the man with the shotgun outside walks through a wall as well before ultimately disappearing. He just slinks around the house casually and then gets Thanos snapped. The older lady just waits at the end of the hallway for the Headless Horseman to step into the prayer room, and then things get interesting. So there's always hidden fragments of pretty funny things within chaotic cutscenes in games. If it's out of sight, then it's out of mind, and a developer normally doesn't go the extra mile to make it coherent. So while the father goes on a rampage and ultimately the whole room gets engulfed in fire, the old woman who died by the machete is still alive on the floor. She's blinking her eyes despite being a new knife holder. The drunken man dies even though he doesn't get hit at all, which is kind of peculiar. Back to the eye thing. This is a common thing in Resident Evil 8 when an NPC dies, but their eyes normally can't be seen due to the chaos. It's also possible for Elena to stay in the fire room while the dad comes after Ethan. If this is the case, the sequence break causes the father to just stay in front of Ethan all weird. We have to interact with the father for things to play out normally, and Elena just teleports behind us with a shotgun. So in the next area, Ethan normally gets in a car and drives through the building for some reason. Seeing the car scene from outside the car is pretty funny too, as Elena just slides across the floor to be out of the shot as the car starts to move. The car just slides as well, and the back tires of course don't move because the player would never see them anyways. Both Elena and the car clip through the wall too. After Ethan drives through the wall, the car just sorta clips to the floor and then somehow rotates and comes to a rest. Elena then instant transmissions Goku style to the car as Ethan climbs his way out of it. As we make our way up the burning building, another cutscene starts. The dad loads in just kind of burning, and because we aren't where we normally are supposed to be, his cape flaps around his body as it struggles to find a place to rest. I think this is because our position is off a bit during the cutscene, and it's having a direct effect on where he's trying to go. Because his cape is flailing around like a wacky tube man, we can actually see a hole in his model's geometry where the cape normally would be covering. This is absent so that when the cape does blow, this upper extruded part of his back doesn't clip through the cape. Or at least that's my hunch. Elena runs down to him, but her position is off and both her and the dad are misaligned. She's straight up clipping through the railing. Now I know they both fall into the fire below, but I want to see what happened to her because it looks like she vanishes in the normal cutscene. After they both fall, I see the dad is next to the burning truck, but Elena actually falls to the floor beneath the house. She's still alive and actually talking to us, which is pretty interesting, because we can see her mouth still moving. Everything goes dark though, and then she unloads as the scene progresses. Running through this again, if she's in the correct position, then she will land on the floor, and we can see her still talking to herself before she unloads again. Now, once we jump out of the building, we of course get to see the head honcho killing Farmer Bob. Taking the camera up close, we can see what this mother looks like, and who we will eventually be up against at some point, I imagine. Seeing her up close at this angle is neat though. She totally just walks through a pole though and vanishes when she's done. And with this, we unlock the gate to the castle, and we leave this area. I hope you enjoyed this bizarre look at Resident Evil 8, and if you did, subscribe right now, because I got a lot of really cool stuff coming your way. Cheers!